the clock that counts backward. When Albert Malari arrived at the Windermere boarding house, he was already a ghost of a man. His wife, Marian, had died the winter prior, taken not by illness, but by stillness. One day she simply ceased. No breath, no final words, just silence at the breakfast table, eyes fixed on something beyond the kitchen wall. Keith called her name once, twice, then forever. The house was too empty after that, the city too loud, Sui. So he sold everything and fled to the northern coast, where the sea made fewer demands. The Windermere sat on a cliff's edge like an old confession. Its owner, a quiet widow named Miss Lovell, offered him the attic room. It was plain, cold, and smelled faintly of wax. A single window faced the water, and against the far wall stood an antique grandfather clock so old it seemed part of the bones of the building. Miss Lovell apologized for it, said it hadn't worked since the war. It was her father's, she said with a shrug. He said it kept him company. She handed Albert the key and left him with a pot of tea. Bed. That first night, he lay in bed watching the shadows twist in the corners, the wind pressing against the walls like breath. The silence was welcome. It was a silence of age, of places long past needing to explain themselves. Just as he drifted to sleep, the clock began to tick. It ticked not forward, but backward. He sat up in confusion. Bandulum swayed the wrong way. There. The hands moved counterclockwise with an eerie smoothness. Midnight receded into 11:59. He thought perhaps it was a trick of exhaustion, of wine, of grief. But the next morning, it read precisely 6 hours behind, and it continued backward as he watched. He told Miss Lovell. "Oh," she said, pouring his tea without alarm, "that old thing. It sometimes acts up in the fall. My father said it was remembering something." He asked what she meant. Bah! She only smiled and asked if he'd like more jam. That night, the ticking began again as the sky darkened. The backwards chime of the hour echoed strangely. Once, twice, then 13 times. When Albert blinked, he found himself standing. Not in bed, but near the clock, his hand resting on the glass. He didn't remember rising. His lips were moving, repeating something. "It's the 3rd hour," she cried. "The 3rd, and again, the 3rd." He stumbled away. He dreamed that night of Maria not as she was, but as she might have been. Younger, untouched by loss, laughing in a summer field he didn't recognize. She turned to him, whispered, "You're not late yet," and vanished. He grew obsessed. The clock never stopped. It wound itself. It ignored the sun. His watch contradicted it. So did the church bell. But he trusted the clock more. Each night it chimed in reverse, each ring pressing gently against his skull like a memory he'd misplaced. He tried to sleep during the day. At night, he sat beside it, pen in hand, recording every motion. He charted dreams. Marian appeared more often. Sometimes she wept. Sometimes she screamed. One evening he noticed the date etched into the inside of the pendulum casing. October 14th, 1901. The day of a shipwreck off the Windermere coast. 37 lost. One survivor, a man named Elias. Albert asked Miss Lovell. She nodded. "Yes. My grandfather," Chris said. The sea took the hours from him, but gave him back the minutes. That night, the clock struck 0, and the world changed. The sky outside the attic window ran backward. Clouds unraveled. Stars fell into place. His tea warmed itself, his hands unwrinkled. He felt the breath of Marian beside him, warm against his cheek, and turned to find the bed empty. But the pillow beside his was indented, as if she had just risen. The clock was gone. In its place was a mirror, tall and silvered, fogged at the edges. In it he saw a version of himself, young, laughing, a candle in his hand. He reached for her. The glass rippled, and then the ticking returned. Sabur. But it wasn't the clock. It was his heart. Elber disappeared a week later. Miss Lovell said little, cleared his room, lit it again. The clock was still there, unmoved, ticking backward. When the new tenant arrived, they commented on the odd sounds in the attic. City felt like someone whispering just behind the door. Asked if the clock worked. Miss Lovell only smiled. "It remembers," she said. "And if you listen long enough, it may help you forget."